Dr. Tinajero,
Dr. Anderson?
nice to have you here.
Thank you. Likewise.
So you're a dermatologist.
That's correct.
Why dermatology? I mean, it's skin, it's pimple popping. It's kind of, it's kind of a weird profession. There's not a lot of us.
I guess that's a good point. I like dermatology because, well, it's so fascinating. But to the normal person, sometimes it might come across as a pimple popper.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just something, had to look beautiful or pretty or whatever. But there's so much more to the skin that what we see, or the public sees. And one of the things I really, really enjoy is the immunology. And that means the way your body fights infections and the outside world. And your skin is like the first barrier to that environment. And there's so many changes on the skin, so many reasons why we see what we see, from the color of your skin to the reaction to when you go hiking or you're swimming and your fingers get, all that stuff is so fascinating to me. And aside from that, is the skin is always, most of the times, the window to the inside of the body. At least I believe it. A lot of the conditions that are treated, such as diabetes, hypertension, all sorts of, thyroid disease, oftentimes, if not all times, is seen on the skin. And if you have that trained eye to look at that, sometimes you can be the one diagnosing those things. Anyway, so that I think is fascinating. And yes, I like to pop some pimples from time to time.
Yeah. So you have a bit of an accent. Where is that from?
I was raised in Mexico City.
Okay.
And soon, when I was younger, I moved to Utah, just a small town in southern Utah. So fun. I was kind of a city boy moving to a country town.
Okay.
So I had that marriage of being a city boy in a country town or a country boy. So that's what I've been there. I was there for a long time and been around the country now through training and all. And it's funny you said the accent, because I used to be, worried about my accent, how people would react to me, and now I think it's just it's a window to my past, and it's something to be proud of in my mind. It's something that I really enjoy, being able to speak Spanish fluently and to communicate with two cultures, two languages, and I don't wear it as a chip in my shoulder anymore. But the question you asked is just because when I was younger, you're in school, or, you're younger, you try not to have the accent.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Because as we go through life, oftentimes the things that we think are hindrances to ourselves actually turns out to be some of our greatest strengths. So like for you, you grew up in Mexico and you speak Spanish fluently, but it's more than that. You understand the culture viscerally because you grew up there. And then you came to America and you speak English flawlessly. And you've also lived in America for many years. And so you understand the culture of America as well. So the subtle nuances of two somewhat different cultures, you understand better than I ever could. And that's an amazing strength. So, I know in my life, looking back on some of the things that I thought were some of my weaknesses, as I got older, they turned out to be the things that made me and that give me the most to offer others. So I think it's amazing. I'm jealous. I wish I could speak Spanish. But can you tell me a story, either in younger childhood or in adulthood, that made you think, dermatology, wow, that is something that other people could perceive weakness in? In other words, they have a skin rash or they have something like that. But flipping that story around to making them a stronger person.
Great question. Good question. Let me think. So I might give you a lot of little stories, but see if I can hopefully put it together. When I was younger, I had chickenpox, like most of us in my generation had chickenpox.
How old? About?
I was probably 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
And at that time, I forgot about it, whatever. It wasn't until I was in high school or early college when I would go to the pool, I would be embarrassed of the scars that I had for the chickenpox.
Yeah.
And obviously I scratched, and being darker skin, the scars are more obvious, and I soon found myself not wanting to, take my shirt off just because of the pox marks. And that really, I felt at that age anyways, just the simple thing of going to the pool.
Mm-hmm.
It was enough I wouldn't want to do it, just for that.
Sure.
And then, now later on, another example, maybe not directly for me, but I'm married, and my wife, just as many women, and now that I've learned, sometimes have things in their skin that really bothers them. My wife would have some hirsutism, just subtle, but enough that it really took a toll on her. And that just means some hair in areas where some women in our culture don't approve. And I could tell from the time I'm married for 11 years, that's been a lot of struggles for her because she feels not accepted. I'm embarrassed, I cover this, I cover that, and so I'm kind of going around on your question,
Yeah.
but a lot of the times it's just teaching people or showing them ways to accept how they are, number one, help them maybe overcome some of those things,
Sure.
either to treatment or not. Because when I see people who, and we can go through acne, we can go through psoriasis, we can go through all sorts of skin rashes that people sometimes don't understand. They think they're contagious, or they think they're dirty, or they think they're ugly. When patients are educated or treated if needed, people change drastically, like drastically, on their confidence, in their relationships, and it's very satisfactory in my mind to be able to, even if I can't cure a disease, even if I know something's going to be there for a long time, sometimes giving patients hope and helping them be okay with themselves, and often in our culture here in America, the skin, the looks is very important, and whether it be good or not, it takes a toll on a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to be able to hopefully help some people feel happier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you have 3 children.
I do. They're
So
awesome.
I'm looking forward to meeting them. But I imagine, I remember back to being a child and going through all the changes of puberty and becoming an adult, and not really having secure feet on the earth, if you will.
Okay.
And then you've got the acne, or you've got maybe psoriasis, or you've got some skin condition. And it just compounds all of those insecure feelings that you have naturally as a child, and everything changing. And dermatology really provides a way to help get them past that, so they can focus on just growing and becoming.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite things in dermatology is treating really bad acne. And Accutane is actually one of my favorite things to do. Because if someone has really bad acne, I'm talking the big cysts that you put a shirt on and you take your shirt off at the end of the night and you've got blood and pus on it because your acne is so bad. And my heart just breaks for these people. But as you go through those months long of Accutane, however long it lasts, 6, 9, 12 months, however long it lasts, and you start to see the acne get better, it's like you see a human coming out of a cocoon, because you start to see their personality, you start to see a smile, you start to see that they're not so self-conscious, that people aren't staring at them wondering what's wrong. And it's just such a beautiful thing to watch somebody not be affected by that, by something on their skin, just really squashing their soul. That's one of the reasons I love dermatology. And Accutane is my second favorite thing to do. So what is your favorite thing? I know this is a hard question, because there's lots of things that you probably love treating, but what is your favorite thing to treat in or as a dermatologist, and why?
Oh man, you're right. It's a hard question. There's so many awesome or very interesting conditions. I'm gonna maybe copycat a little bit here, but I would agree on acne. I think we are the experts in acne, or at least people think we are. And hey, I can't refer somebody out for acne, right? I can't say, I can't refer you to a specialist. So I think acne is along with you, I think it's something that I enjoy because it is an art. Oftentimes people say, well, can I just put a cream on? And yeah, you can just put a cream on, but there is an art to that too. For the ones like you said, very big, really bad acne, to the young girl who has one pimple. You gotta treat them equally. You gotta know that for that person, whether it be one little pimple or really big pimples, it's important for them.
Sure.
And so I like that art. Now, just to switch around, another thing I really like, I like sometimes people that are super itchy. Now every dermatologist, a lot of dermatologists that I know would say, oh my gosh, somebody comes in with either hair loss or itchiness. I don't want to, it's just too much. But I've actually learned to like it a little,
Sure.
because some of these patients that are itchy everywhere, they just can't find a way to relieve themselves. So they've gone around. They've gone around to so many doctors. And they're sometimes coming for hope. Like, can you just do something else than just give me a cream or tell me the skin is dry? And as crazy as it sounds, actually, I think I like to treat people that don't have answers, that sometimes have been passed around through different dermatologists even. I like those kinds. And now I'm expanding too much because you say it's a hard question because I like a lot of stuff. I like complicated derm. I like difficult conditions that sometimes people don't want to treat. Because if they, again, I think everybody deserves a good doctor. Everybody deserves hope. Everybody deserves to be treated 100%. And just because they have a condition that some people would call difficult, doesn't mean that they shouldn't be treated equally as someone who, is a bread and butter for us. So I do like some people who had an suppurativa. I like patients with hair loss. Because they are often the most trusted patients. They're often the patients who are a team player with you, because if you provide them hope, if you provide them direction, you can really build that relationship, because they've been pushed around.
Sure.
So, anyways.
No, that's great. I mean,
loaded question, loaded answer. I'm sorry.
No, it's a hard question to ask because, someone who belongs in a profession should have difficulty narrowing it down to one or two things. It should be you should be like, Reagan, that's a ridiculous question. I love, how much time do you have? And I'll tell you how much I love dermatology.
That's true,
and
that's
why,
true.
right? So,
no,
I think it's a great answer, and I think that it will serve you well because, so often in our lives, we like to focus on the one negative thing that happened instead of the 1,000 positive things. And that kind of, it's not too good for our souls. But when you can look at the things that are difficult, like you were just talking about, you can look at some of the things that people struggle with and say, hey, this is an amazing opportunity to help this person live on their terms, not on a disease's terms, but on their terms that they define. That is an amazing gift to offer those patients. You walk into the room with an attitude of, I'm going to help. This is going to be hard, and I'm going to need teamwork.
Yep.
And it's going to be a lot of back and forth, but we're going to do this. I think patients can feel that when you walk into the room. And I think it changes the whole atmosphere. And if the patient's just willing to meet you halfway, or even honestly a quarter of the way,
yep,
then oftentimes that enthusiasm can reach the goal. But on the converse, if you walk in and go, oh my gosh, this is a condition that nobody likes to treat, this is gonna suck, this is gonna be horrible, well, the patient can feel that too. And then it further pushes their hope down there, and then that squashes everything about them.
Absolutely.
So I think it's a beautiful answer. I love it.
Thank you, thank you.
I love it, I love it. Okay, let's talk about, so I'm gonna go with this one because you're a father of 3.
Okay.
Let's talk about body dysmorphic syndrome. And body dysmorphic syndrome is, in my definition, when you turn something, it's a physical condition, into something that it's not. It means more than it should. In other words, I need to lose 10 pounds, therefore I am ugly. Or I am the perfect weight, right? You're healthy and fit and you have the right everything, but you still think you need to lose 10 pounds. And then once you lost that, you still think you need to lose 10 pounds. Or the person who needs some, comes in and thinks they need some cosmetic work, some fillers, but it's never enough.
Mm-hmm.
Now in my estimation, there's nothing wrong with coming in and saying, hey, Dr. Tinajero, my cheeks are getting shrunken in a little and as I'm getting older, and it just makes me look tired all the time. Can we pump those up? And you're happy about that. That's totally fine. That's just,
sure.
But if the person comes in and says, hey, my cheeks are sour and I'm not worthy of love because these aren't puffed out, that's the problem in my estimation.
Mm-hmm.
So you have 3 children.
Okay.
And they have all these outside influences from magazines, television, social media. They have more influences now than in the history of the world by exponential amounts. How do you as a father help keep them away from that body dysmorphic and help them live as a child of God?
Oh, you like hard questions, Dr. Anders, but I like it. I guess you're thinking, it's a great question, something that I see sadly happens a lot. And I am a father of 3, and I think the way I chose to do that, or to help my children deal with the influences of the world, which that's just my opinion, that's what I do, that's what my wife and I do in our home, is I think every child needs to know that they are loved regardless of who they are, and that starts from very early age. They have to know that it doesn't matter whether people say in school or in magazines or whatever, and we believe there's a God, and we teach them from very early age that they're sons or daughters of God, and they are made in their image, and they're perfect. And what I mean by perfect, not perfect how they look, but that God put them in this world because He chose them to be here, and then they were selected to be here. And that takes repetition. It takes, as a parent, to do that. So if my kid comes in and did something wrong, or drew on the wall, or did what kids do, it takes control. It takes discipline as a parent to not react and say, "Oh," but to say, "Oh," and be accepting even of the behavior that you might disagree, and then find a moment to say, how can we correct this or whatever. Always with love. Always with, you are a son of God, you're a daughter of God. I have a daughter and 2 kids and 2 boys, and I do worry about what they're gonna see in middle school and high school and stuff. But if you have a foundation at home, when you're the spouse, my wife and I are consistent, can be you're nice and then the next day you're not. If you're consistent and you remind them that they're gonna come home and they're gonna say, Dad, this kid bullied me in school, or they told me I was short, or they told me I was brown, or they told me whatever, that I'm not good enough. You always go back to what they learned when they were babies, and whether you've been doing it for years and years and years, and you say, you're a son of God, you're perfect, you're an amazing human that we're here in this world for a reason, and it's an amazing thing to realize when you learn that. And I just hope that I can do that to my kids. And it's a hard answer to give you, but if I was to summarize this, you give them something to believe in when they're early. I call it a God. You give them repetition and reassurance that God exists, and that they are unique individuals, that they were here, sent or created by a God, like I believe. And you can call it whatever. Could you be your destiny, your soul, or whatever. And because of that reason, they are so perfect and so individual and unique. They're not just another human being. They're a unique individual. Then I feel children have a stronger, attitude, I guess, to combat the influences. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard, and that might not work all the time, but you just hope it does. And there's going to be times I'm hoping not, but might be a day that my daughter will come in and say, the boys in school told me I was fat, and I'm not pretty, or whatever, and it's going to take a lot of hugs and a lot of praying and a lot of, saying you're a daughter of God, you're a beautiful individual. And but it's a hard question. It's a hard question.
Of course it is. Well, I'm not going to ask you easy questions.
I know.
But there's trickery and strategery in that question, because people who are watching this,
Yep.
I want them to know what type of physician you are. Because the role of physician-patient or doctor-patient is not the role of father-child, not at all.
Right.
But there are some similarities. The similarities are, you know most likely more than the patient does about the situation. And for most things, you know more than your children do about situations.
Fair enough.
You are in a position of authority as a physician, and people come to you for advice. As a father, you're in a position of authority over your children, and they come to you for advice.
Mm-hmm.
People come to a physician when there are problems that they need help with. Children come to their parents when there are problems they need help with. And so while they are very different and the analogy does break down,
Right.
there are some similarities. So what I heard you talk about was love the patient,
Yes.
accept the patient,
Mm-hmm.
help the patient navigate through their problems, and help them realize that while they're navigating through their problems, their disease doesn't define them.
Mm-hmm.
What defines them is that they were created and chosen and made, and that they're beautiful and that they're perfect, and you're here to help them through their journey.
That's a fair assessment. Thank you. You put it elegantly.
Well, you said the words. You live the life, right? That's your life. And you've had not only a ton of education, but we all know book smarts doesn't really count for anything. You've had a ton of experiences in your life that are an amazing asset. I mean, I was a military brat. I moved all around. So I have some of the understanding different cultures. And I view it as a huge strength. When I was a kid, I thought it was a weakness, right? 'Cause I didn't have roots. Turns out my roots are this planet, and they aren't tied to anything, which helps me understand, accept, and integrate in with whoever I'm with, regardless of anything that I could view as separate. You have very similar things. You've struggled with things in your life. You've struggled with looking at some of your amazing strengths and finding out that they're amazing strengths, and finding out that they weren't weaknesses to start with.
Mm-hmm.
They were actually building you into a stronger man who could offer more things to more people. You're a father who has struggled through that, like all parents do, and come to understand your children as beautiful, which translates into your patients being beautiful. So I'm excited to work with you. I think Colorado Springs is going to be lucky to have you. And I think when patients get to know your heart and your abilities, I think it'll be an amazing, amazing match. So.
I certainly hope so. I'm very excited to join the community, and like you said, I first love the patient. I love people, and if people were to tell me what they like about me in the past, it's never, hey, Dr. Tinajero was an excellent clinician because he gave me the right pill or the right cream or whatever. Usually, if not all times, is he listened, he cared, and that's what I want. Because you're right, book smart is not enough in these days, ever probably, but you have to have that connection with the patient, because if you don't have the relationship, that patient-doctor relationship, it doesn't matter how much you know. It's an old saying, of course, it's just how much you care, and I think that's very true. Yeah. So with that, I'm very, very excited to be in Colorado Springs, and we love it here already.
Yeah, let's end with that quote. So patients don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
Before we end, I think it'd be good if you could talk a little bit about the South Clinic and where people can find Dr. Tinajero and some of the features of the South Clinic.
You got it. We good?
Good. Go ahead.
So another reason I'm excited to have you here is that you're going to be a little bit in the North Clinic, up near Liberty High School, Powers Research area, and you're going to be a little bit in the South Clinic, which is on Lake Avenue right next to Culver's, so you can get an ice cream when you want.
Okay.
Both clinics were built out to be green and energy efficient with LED lights and all that stuff, but the South Clinic is there's not going to be a building like it in Colorado Springs. It's very green. The architecture is going to make it a landmark building in this town. It's going to be gorgeous. And every single detail was architecturally and design-wise chosen for our patient experience. So it's geothermal, so it's heated by the earth. You can't get any greener than that. It's powered by the sun, solar. In fact, we're the only place in town so far that has bifacial solar panels. It has live plant walls throughout the entire clinic to filter the air naturally. Even though Colorado Springs has some of the cleanest air in the nation, it's going to be even cleaner inside. And you know how sometimes medical clinics, they kind of have a little odor to them because, well, things that we treat. But this, it's going to smell like a live plant wall will make it smell. And I think when people go through the clinic, both clinics, they immediately see a difference. And they know that this clinic was designed for them. You know, most medical spaces are designed for the practitioners to make us feel good, to boost our egos. None of our businesses are that way. Every single detail is designed with the patient in mind. That's why the doctor's office is right in the center. Not tucked away in some corner that tells everybody they're not available. We are right in the center of the clinic because structure equals function. And putting the structure of where the doctor sits in the center has the function of telling everybody that we are here for them, not they are here for us. So the South Clinic is going to be a landmark building. I'm hoping that it teaches everybody in Colorado Springs that you can build a beautiful building that's environmentally conscious, that is welcoming, that's designed for the patient, because the patient, they are the heroes of the story. The person with the horrible acne who still manages to get up every day and go to school, still manages to treat others well while they are judging them, still manages to have the bravery to come in and get treatment and to go through the process to get better. They're the hero. And our buildings are designed to celebrate them. Everything in our clinics are designed to celebrate them. So I'm excited to have you at the South Clinic. I'm excited for Colorado Springs to see that you can do all of this and still have a return on investment. And I think it will change things.
That's very, very exciting. I know the construction is pretty much almost done.
Yep.
So in fact, probably today or sometime when I'm here, I'm gonna be traveling there and looking at it, and I'm humbled to be invited to that and to be part of that, because as you describe, putting the patient first and having every detail telling the patient that they're important, I think it's exciting to be part of that, and it's great to be with a team that cares about that, and I just want to join and I just want to play along. And what an honor to be in such a building, so I'm thrilled.
I'm excited. You're going to be a good fit.
Yeah, thank you.